Hi, welcome to this presentation on the ACE stock system. There are two versions, the standard stock system and the composition stock system. The standard stock system is meant for trading companies and non-manufacturing companies, whereas the composition stock system is meant for manufacturing companies and retail businesses with sales packages or food and beverage businesses. Now, what is the main difference? The composition stock system has bill of materials or BOM, in short, or composition tables. Now here's an example of a BOM table for a manufacturing company where you have finished goods A is made up of component 1, 2, and 3 with different quantities. So when there is a production of say 100 sets of finished goods A, the system will auto-deduct component 1, quantity 100, which is the 1 piece times 100 sets, and component 2 300 pieces, component 3 100 pieces. Here's another example of a BOM table used for retail business. For example, a retail business, you may have package A. When you sold, it is made up of item 1, 2, and 3 as a combination forming package A. So when there's a sales of one set of package A, the system will auto-deduct item 1, item 2, and item 3. The same thing applies for food and beverage businesses. If you have, for example, a bottle of whiskey, if you can sell 30 shots in one bottle, then the system will auto-deduct 1 out of 30 of a bottle. Or if you sell 1 jug of beer, you auto-deduct 4 mugs of beer. Now let's go into the actual demonstration of the stock system. We are using the composition stock version in this case for this demonstration. Just know that if you are using the standard stock system, which is a non-composition version, then the features of the composition options will not be there. Now this is the password entry screen. The person with the highest authority to enter all aspects of the system is named admin with his own password. Now this person, admin, has the power to create other users with different passwords, and each person with a different password can access only certain parts of the module. So once you have entered the password, click OK. System will pull up the date of the system, current system. And this is the main menu on the ACE stock system. Now you notice there are 5 main sections. The first section is called maintenance. Inside here, there are sub options for you to create stock codes, create locations, create type of classification of stocks, and so on. So this is like a setup section. The second section is a posting section where you are allowed to post transactions, purchase transactions, sales transactions, transfer transactions, and so on. Then the third section is an inquiry where you can inquire on individual stock item, their ledgers, their balances, and so on. The fourth section is the reports where you can print all the reports available from the stock system. And the last one is called others, where we set up the system, the configuration of the system and how your system works for you. The last button is the exit button should you wish to exit the system. Now let's go into the first section, which is the maintenance section. First sub button here or option here is location. Now this is a multi-location stock system, which means that you can create a location code for every actual location. If you are a manufacturing concern, it can represent your warehouses. If you are a retail business, it can represent each outlet. So for example, you may have main store. In this case, we have code 01 representing the main store. The description is up to you to type, and we have got addresses of the location as well. We use this address to print, for example, stock transfer forms, so the deliveryman knows where is the address to send the goods when you're transferring. And we have email addresses inside here set up for you to set up in case you wish to send some information or data to individual location. You can actually make use of this email address to send out the soft copy of the data. Now you can create as many locations you want. There's a pop-up button here So this could be location 2. So if you are doing retail business, for example, this could be your outlet, your second outlet, and the address, and so on. Now if you are a manufacturing concern, it could be warehouse 1, warehouse 2, and so on. Now the next option is creation of stock codes. This allows you to create various stock codes and so on. Now before we come to this creation of stock code, it's good for us to go to the analysis table first. Now analysis table allows us to classify the product. Now there are many classifications in use. For example, in this case we have department, product category, and product group. Now we also have color and sizes. So this depends on how you configure the system. For example, let's say we close this and we go to configuration. Let's reconfigure this a little bit different under administrative tools. We will cover this configuration more in detail later on. So I can say, for example, I wish to have color and size. So I'll do this, set this up, color and sizes, apply, close. Now when I come back to maintenance, under analysis table, you notice that now your pull down has got product color as well as size. So this is the type of classification you can do for your individual product. So depending on your business and what your stock system wants to control, you have to set up these various classification. So in this example, we are having, for example, retail business. So we have department. So what do we have under department? You can see here we have got music, sales package, and video. So this is an example where we are doing retail business for music products and video products. So there's no limit to the number of departments you can actually create. So if you want to create a new department, for example, clothing, so you can actually just type in clothing. And if you are asking the system to auto code your product, then you can actually put what is your code representing clothing. For example, if it's clothing is represented by C, you can put C as a code. Now this code allows the system to auto code your product, so that whenever you add a new product under clothing, the system will know that the code will start with C. Now you can also choose not to use auto coding, which means that you can create coding on your own manually. You can do that as well. There is also a part of the configuration of the system. So if you confirm adding this clothing, just click add, and that's a new product, a new department already added. You can see here. So the same thing goes for category, for example. So category would be a subcategory below. So like in this case it's blank. Let's say if I were to have brand A, I can create brand A. So maybe brand A will have A as a code, brand B may have B as a code, for example. And below that, let's say you have group. Now you can see right now you don't have anything. If I were to have group representing something else, maybe type of a product, so it could be type something, let's say type 1. And if you wish to have 01 as a code for type 1, if it is type 2, you have 02 and add this, okay, and so on. So same thing applies for color and sizes. If you have color, anything representing color and size, you can put it in. Same thing with any size, you can put in the size code. Now let's go back to stock. So under here there are many sub options for you to maintain stock items and so on. Let's look at the first one, maintain stock items. Now this is a course password. The initial password will be password, P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D in capital. You can change this to any password you want. Now if a user does not have the password, will not be able to see the actual cost price. So let's say in this case our password is 123. Now do you wish to add or do you change the delete? If I say add, now the system will ask me for location, because you are creating multi-locations. Remember earlier in the option, so you would have this different location. Now if I were to create stock codes for the first time, I would just put on the main store, so that after that I've checked through if the codes are correct, I can just duplicate the codes to other locations. So, and if you have color and size, because I've switched on color and size, if I click on the pop-up here, if I've got created color and size, it will add it for you. If you don't have, you will not have any pop-up. So once you are inside the department, you can select. For example, if I'm doing clothing, I can press clothing. What is the product category under clothing? If I have brand A, and then what is it? If it's type B, for example, you can see the system will auto allocate your stock code. Here you can see, and at the same time, your default, your barcode as the same coding as your stock code. Now you can change this. If your product is not manufactured by you and you purchase it, for example, from another company, you can actually change this barcode to use their barcode. So your stock code may be your internal stock code, but the barcode could be the original manufacturer's barcode. So that makes it easier for you, because if you are doing retail, for example, you can actually scan their barcode and sell that item. If you are doing manufacturing, of course, you would use back your own barcodes. So next, you would have description of the item. There will be a description line 1, 2, and 3. Now each line has 25 characters. You've got 3 lines, so you have a maximum of 75 characters. So the shorter the description, the better, unless you want to make it very, very clear in your invoices or your bills, then you put it as detailed as possible for a description. Now, under each stock item, there is also a status for active and inactive. Now, the purpose of this is, like, for example, some stock, after some time, you have sold them and you find that you're not selling them anymore, for example, or you're not manufacturing anymore, but you cannot remove the description because there are previous records. You can make this stock inactive. So once you make it inactive in any of your posting screens, for example, or your sales screen, when you choose a pop-up meaning like you list out all the items that you can sell or you can manufacture or you can post purchases, it will not show up in those pop-ups. So to reduce possibility of mistakes when you're doing posting. So an active stock is a stock that is currently still in use. Now, bin location, whether you're doing a warehouse or you're doing a retail store, you may locate, for example, which section of your warehouse or which section of your shop is this item located in. So it could be something like, for example, in rack A and level 1. So this is up to you to key in the bin location. It can be up to a maximum of 6 characters. So how you do it, it depends on what you want to do. Now, the GL link code is, for example, if you're doing purchases or you're doing sales, for example, you can create different type of link codes. We call it general ledger link codes, where we link it back to our general ledger system. So if this is a sales product, for example, then you'll be using one of these sales link codes that you create. Now, the link codes is created under the debtor system. Debtor system, where we link it back to a sales. Okay, if it's purchases, it's created under the credit system. Now, currency type, if you are buying this in foreign currency, what is the foreign currency that you purchase in? But whatever you purchase, even though it's foreign currency, when you post into the stock system, finally the system will convert it to the local currency, because all the accounting is done in local currency. Now, when it comes to packing, for each product, we have got 3 levels of packing. Meaning, you can, for example, you may have a gross, which is something like, okay, gross pack. We have 3 levels. So let's say 144 is equivalent to a gross. So a gross may be a huge carton, for example. So in one carton, in other words, you are saying you have 144 pieces. Right? One carton is 144 pieces. Now the minimum quantity is when you want to control your reorder level. Is it in the carton, which is the highest denomination in this case, or is it the lowest? So depending on how you set it. So if you really have carton, of course, all your control would possibly be in the highest denomination. In this case, let's say if you say, look, it cannot drop below 10 cartons, then this is where you set in your minimum quantity. Now the second level may be, say for example, dozen. Inside a carton, you have dozen. So you put some description for it, for example, dozen. Okay. And since you're controlling your minimum quantity reorder level at the highest level, this would probably be a 0. And the lowest one could be, for example, piece. So in this example, you are saying that this stock item has got packing of carton, which consists of 144 pieces. The unit here is always represent the lowest one. So one carton is equivalent to 144 pieces. 1 dozen, inside the carton, when you open up, there are dozen packing, which is 12 pieces per dozen, and the final one, the lowest, is piece. So this is how we can classify the product. Now, if your product does not have any packing, you will leave this as 0 and 0, and you can go to, for example, only pieces. So this is how you allocate the stocks. Then of course you have your minimum stock reorder level, right? So you have different unit of measurement you can set for every single item using this method of gross pack, pack, and unit. So the last cost, if you have got packing, for example, gross pack or pack, now this always refers to the highest denomination. So in this case, if you are putting piece, it means what is your cost per piece. So let's say this is $25 per piece. Last purchase date, at this moment in time, you do not need to feed in, because if this is a new item, there's no last purchase date. So when you do your actual purchase posting, the system will auto update this last purchase date. Then come to selling price. Now selling price, we have got actually inside the stock, you can classify two different type of prices. You can actually have retail price and wholesale price. Now in this case, you notice that we only have one single price. Now I'll show you later on how we can configure this to have two different prices. Now we have selling price 1, 2, 3. You can make use of this as, for example, reseller's price. It could be a wholesale price, or it could be an end user price. So you could, depending on how you use the stock system, price 1, 2, and 3 can indicate different types of pricing, selling pricing for your product. So let's say if you are putting the first one as end user price, as a retail price, for example, let's say this is being sold for $40, and if you're using 2, for example, for a different type of customer, maybe it's cheaper because it's more discount, you can set this. So let's say this is 38 and the last one is 35. So for example, if you're using the pricing this way, then this selling price have 3 different levels in this case. Now once you've finished keying this, if you go to page 2, right, you notice there are other data that you can enter for each stock item. For example, do you control stock on this particular stock item? Now sometimes in your business, if you're doing service charges, for example, you can actually create the service charge as a stock code as well. Now in such case, there is no balance quantity control, then you remove this tick, for example, then you don't need to control quantity. So the default is always controlling quantity. Now we also have batch number and expiry date. Now this is for some special products, because some type of stock items you may have expiry date and batch numbers. For example, one very good example would be pharmaceutical products, where you have batch number and expiry date. Now if you were to set this on, that means every time you do a purchase or you do a sale of this item, you need to enter the batch number and expiry date. Or if you're doing a sales, you need to match the batch number or expiry date. So depending again on the product that you're selling or you're manufacturing, whether you need this feature, if you need, you switch it on. If you don't need, you don't switch it on. So in this case, since we are creating a clothing product, there's no batch and expiry date, we will remove that. And also, you have a setting here that says whether this is entitled to service charge, discount, or promoter's commission. Promoter's commission is like salesman commission. That means whenever they sell quantity 1 of this item, how much of commission does the salesman or the promoter get? Is it in dollar or is it in percentage? So it can be both. So if you are to set, for example, in dollar, it is say 1, that means every time I sell 1, I get $1 of commission. So you can actually use this to specify for each stock product how much of commission you pay to the salesperson. Now the tax level is meant for GST. So each tax level can represent a certain percentage or a type of GST, goods and service tax. Now for promotion, this is validity date. This is meant for promotion. You can actually set whether any promotion on this stock item is valid or not, from what range of what date to what date. Profit margin, percentage markup, this is for you to indicate what is the usual markup based on cost price that you set inside this item. Now the purpose of this is for you to do auto adjustment of selling price in the future. If you want to use an option to auto adjust your selling price, then the system will use this markup to look at your new cost and do the adjustment in selling price. Now if you do not put in any particular percentage or markup here, you will have to adjust the pricing yourself. When new cost comes in, you may want to change your selling price, which was shown in the earlier page. Remember, under here you see the selling price, then you may adjust the selling price based on the markup here, percentage, if you were to fit this in. And so this can be in dollars or this can be in percentage. If it's dollars, it means the cost plus this dollar. If it's percentage, it is based on cost times the percentage increase. Now you can also attach a photo for every item. Now if you wish to attach a photo for every item, that means for every one of your stock item, you actually have to take a photo of the item and store inside your system and say which photo belongs to this item. And this photo can be displayed during the sales cycle if you wish to show so, or it can even be printed on a bill if you want to, depending on the type of business. For example, in jewelry business, where every item can be unique and different, then printing the photo on the bill would be something useful. So you can actually make use of this feature to do that. Now once you have done that, we go back to you can actually click add, and then you can add this item. So that's how you create one new stock item into the stock system. Now how do you get the price to be two set? Now let's close this screen. For example, we go to System Administrative Tools, System Setup. Under Maintenance of Price, you can see here, you can actually switch this on, maintain two sets of selling price. Now once you switch this on, then we have wholesale and retail price. And what happens is, let's say we do apply, you can see if I will come back to the stock maintenance now, in my cost password, and I say add. Now can you see? There's now two sets of price. One is for retail, one is for wholesale. Now the retail price is meant for the POS system, the ACE POS system. The ACE POS system is considered our retail system, so it uses the retail prices. Whereas our sales invoicing or wholesale system will use the wholesale prices. So if you are a business where you have actually doing retail on your own and doing wholesales, then you would like to switch this feature on so that you have two sets of prices. And under each set, you do have your structure of 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. And how do we define the 1, 2, 3? Depends on the individual debtors. So if you are using also our ACE debtor system, under there for each debtor or each customer, you can actually specify, is that customer using price 1, 2 or 3? So that relates back to these prices that you set under here for retail and wholesale. So this is how you make use of two sets of end user prices. Now the next option under maintenance is transfer type. This is for you to create different types of transfer reasons. Now when we do stock transfer, it means that we are transferring stock from one location. Remember, we have these locations under here. Let's close this. Just remember under location, we have a different location. So when you're transferring stock between one location to the other, we will make use of transfer reasons. So this is where you can create different reasons. For example, we have 1 to 10. These are the usual system transfers already created for you. So if it is a normal transfer, we will probably use standard transfer. So you may have things, for example, like damaged goods. So you could create, for example, a new code and say that this is damaged goods transfer. So you could create different reasons and add. So you could make use of these to create different types of transfers, which you will use later on when you're posting the stock transfer posting. Now the currency table option is for you to create different type of exchange rate. For example, 1 Singapore dollars is equivalent to how much of local currency and so on. So this is to create exchange rates. So if you are buying your goods in foreign currencies, when you post in foreign currencies, once you post inside here in the stock system, the system will actually convert it to the local currency because all accounting are done in local currencies. Now the next available option here is called composition stock, which this is the option where you create your bill of materials or BOM. Now this option will not be available if you are using the standard stock system, which is the non-composition version. So since we are showing here a composition version, that's why this option is here. Now when you click this, there are two sub options: maintain composition stock table or update composition cost. So let's go to the maintain composition table, enter the cost password. You can see this is where you can build up your tables representing different products. For example, let's say I go to change a master code inside here, for example. See, this is a sales package. Since I'm looking at this example as a retail business, in other words, I'm saying sales package SP001 is made up of these individual items. So when I sell one set of SP001, system will follow this composition table and actually deduct the quantity indicated here. So you can see that if you are manufacturing concern, this master code would be your finished goods. And the products codes item here would be your components, so individual components. So that every time you manufacture, for example, 10 sets or 100 sets of this SP001, the system will take, if it's a quantity of 100, will take 100 times this quantity and deduct the components individually. So if you are doing a retail sales, then the system will minus the individual item once you have sold. So in this example, this is a retail sales, for example. So you will actually minus back. So this is how you can set up different composition for different items. Now under the composition stock option, there is another option called update composition cost. Now what this option does is to change your actual total cost for a particular sales package or a finished goods depending on the individual composition table that you set up. So in other words, if your cost of individual components or sales item changes, what this option does is when you click on proceed here, is that you will recalculate the actual cost and update to the main master code. Now there's also another option here called import and export stock code. So what this does is, for example, if you are running the stock system on one PC and you wish to transfer the data of the stock items to another PC which is not directly linked with a network into this particular one, you can actually use this import and export option. So for example, if I'm running a retail trade and I have different outlets, so when I create my new stock codes inside my master server or my master PC, then I would need to use this option to actually export the items, for example, all the individual items, and export it via a media, maybe by disk or through a network if it's connected to a local area network, or through email address, or even a direct modem dial-up. So you will be able to use this option to actually export all the stock items code to another PC, and on the other PC you will do a import function. So this is the purpose of this import and export option. Now let's go to the next section, the posting section. You can see under here we have got purchases and sales posting. So let's look at purchase receipt first. Enter your course password. Now if you want to have a posting journal printed, which means that after each set of posting it prints out a journal for you to counter check the posting, you tick this on. Otherwise you leave this as untick, click OK. Now inside the posting, purchase receipt posting, first thing is your date, second one is your reference of the invoice number of the supplier, and which supplier account, who are your suppliers. So you can actually create different account numbers. If you are using our ACE credit system, actually this is integrated, so it's actually picking up the account numbers from the ACE creditor system. So which location are you posting to? Let's say it's coming to main store. What is the individual stock code that you're buying? For example, if you're buying different type of products, let's say this is a product you're buying, any color and size if you have, you can put in color and sizes. Comments, for example, this is just purchases. Now this is up to you. You may not want to type anything if you don't want to. Now the number of units you bought, let's say if you bought in 50 units, if you are buying in purchase in foreign currency, it will be in foreign currency. Otherwise, what is your new buying price? If your new cost is, for example, 620, then you enter 620, the system will multiply this for you. Now this system is based on a first in first out basis costing method. So in other words, if you sell an item, you will first use the earliest cost first. Automatically you will match off the first cost first. So once you've done that, you just do a click, you do a post, and the system will just post. So this is how you do purchase posting. So if I'm posting another item, if you do not remember the stock code, I can actually do this, and I can do, for example, let's say this item, and I'm buying say 30 units of this. At what cost? Let's say if this is 650 now, enter your cost and do a post. Now We also have a feature whereby if you are selling, for example, clothes, you have color and sizes. Now, if you have color and sizes, we actually have something called a matrix table. That means that once I've keyed in the main stock code, let's say just an example here, because we have not created any on color and sizes here. So let's say if I've got an item, for example, and this has color and size. If I were to create, let's say this item has got different color and size. If I leave these two fields as blank, what happens is that a table will pop up showing all different color and sizes available for this particular main item, and you can just feed in the quantity you purchase for each color and size. So that is called a matrix table. So the system can also be configured to actually post purchases that way with matrix table. So if you have finished all your posting, you end posting, and you can print a journal. You have selected a journal. Now, if you are using our ACE purchase order system, for example, then you don't need to come here to do purchase receipt, because under the PO system or purchase order system, the system will have things like goods received note. So you issue your purchase order, and when you are receiving the goods, you do a goods received note. The system will automatically do a purchase receipt from there and update. So if you're using a PO system, then you don't need to come to this purchase receipt. Now, purchase return option, we will not go through this, but it is similar. For example, in this case, it's just a return. So it is similar to the purchase receipt, right? They are actually under the same screen. So you would have numbers, which supplier are you returning to, which is the location you're returning, what product are you returning, and how many pieces are you returning, and the system will just match it based on FIFO. Okay, you can see details of this matching. If you want to do, for example, manual matching, in other words, you are not returning the earlier items, you're returning some item which you supply later, then you can choose a manual. If you use auto, the system will always use the oldest one to match. You use manual, then you can select maybe it's returning items from this batch, for example, from this particular purchase. So you can actually do this particular return. So depending on what you return, so if you're returning, for example, this, then you can do a manual match. Okay, and do a post, and the system will return the thing at that particular cost. So this is purchase return posting. Now, next option is a sales issue. Enter cost password. Now, if you are linking your stock system or integrating your stock system to our ACE post point of sale system, for example, if you're doing retail sales, then you do not need to come here to do your sales posting, because from the issue of bills under the ACE post, the system would have automatically updated the sales posting here. Same thing for if you are using our wholesale invoicing system, for example. The wholesale invoicing system is meant for selling at wholesale prices, so the system would also do the sales issue posting for you. So this is only if you are issuing your invoice manually, then you need to come here and do a sales issue posting. Otherwise, there's no need, because all those systems that you integrate to the wholesales and the point of sales would have update all this for you. So let's say you sold something on this date, let's say it's on the 20th, for example, and your bill number, and you sold to which customer, right? Which customer, and from which location do you sell your product, what is the product that you have sold, okay, and how many items do you sell, for example, you can type in, and what is your selling price, right? This is not cost price, this is selling price, because the selling price will be captured so that the system is able to calculate the profit for you on the items that you sold. The cost price is the system will auto match based on FIFO, right? Or you can click here. You can, of course, if you want to match some other purchases manually, you can also do this. So in this case, there's only one, so you do an auto post, and the system will be able to match the sales issue for you. So the same thing goes for sales return, right? It's almost the same as a sales issue. It's just it's opposite. So which is the item that you're returning? If there's some sales return, for example, let's say 001, there's a return. How many items will return? 1. What is your cost? All right, what is the cost of that sales return? So when you're doing a return, you need to know exactly the cost, because this is where the system will put back the cost of that item inside. So it may be, since it's a sales return, which means that this has been sold to your customer for quite some time, so when you come back, the system will not know which is the actual cost. You will need to actually punch back your cost, and the system will just add back that item as your cost. cost. So if you know that it's $6, for example, you just enter $6. What was the sales value of returned? If you have been selling for $15, for example, you return, so the system will reverse the actual profit for you as well. And you just do a post, and the system will add that. Now, next option available here is called a purchase order. Now, this is not an actual purchase order system. So this is basically for customers who are not using our ACE purchase order system. They just want to issue a purchase order. To make it simple, it's like a form. For example, I want to print out a document. A document is like a purchase order document. So I would do this, and numbers are manual because this is basically just for printing, easy for you to print. With who's your supplier, attention to who, and so on. You can actually have all these names. Which location are you issuing a purchase order? What product are you ordering? And how many units are you ordering? At what cost? Any particular discount, percentage or dollars, and you post. So this is like printing a document. This is not, is for you to make it easier for you to issue a purchase order where you don't use a purchase order system. So you have to key in line by line, for example, all those items. So this is pretty manual if you're not using our purchase order system, just to make it easier for you to print your PO. That's the purpose of this purchase order. So it doesn't track anything, it's just issuing of document. So from here you can see that you can print out, for example, a purchase order. Now the actual purchase order system will actually track all the purchase order, how much is not delivered, and so on. But this one is a simple form issuing option for you. Now the miscellaneous transfer option, you can actually print a journal, print a document. A document meaning that you can actually print a stock transfer form. Alright, so let's use an actual document to print a stock transfer form. Now here you can select the date, the reference. Now if you can make use of this transfer for a lot of transfers, for example like damaged goods or an actual transfer from one location to another. So some of them, if you are doing damaged goods, for example, they'll be transferred out, but it doesn't go to any particular destination. So you would make use of this whether there is no source, meaning that it just comes in. For miscellaneous receiving, for example, you make use of this from no source, or to no destination, meaning like if you're transferring out something, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's like a damaged goods write-off, for example, then you say no destination. Now if you leave both on, then you have to specify from which location to which location. Now if you are doing, for example, consignment business, or you're doing your own retail outlet, both together, then you can actually create different prefix. See, like in this example, branch transfer we use BT, for consignment we use CO. So in other words, if I'm doing a transfer form for my own branch, I will use BT, so that an auto number will comes out according to BT something. Now if I'm doing a consignment, for example, I can use CO, then I can have a different range of branch transfer forms, okay, or for transferring goods, for in this case, for example, for your own consignment counters. So let's say if it's a branch transfer, from which location to which location. For example, if you have many locations, you can choose, you see, many retail outlets. And then what are the stock items? So let's say if you're transferring this particular stock item, how many units are you transferring? Is it a standard transfer? Remember earlier we created reasons. So if it's a normal standard transfer, you say normal standard transfer. So what is the next item that you're transferring? How many product are you transferring? And so on. Then when you finish, you do a post. Then you can actually print out the transfer form. And on the transfer form, you can specify whether you want to print out the selling price or cost price. If you do not want branches to see cost price, usually you would use a selling price. And then you will actually print out a transfer form here. Now once you've done this transfer form, the system will actually update straight away into the stock. But there are two options available. One is actually an online transfer form, which means that the moment you update it, the system deducts the stock from the wherever you're transferring from and add it to the transferee, the one that is receiving the location itself. Or it can be on a batch basis. A batch basis meaning that you can post transfer form, but it does not update the stocks yet until you have checked through and you are sure that your posting is correct, then you do an update. So you can actually do it online or batch. You can see here, let's say let's end this. You can see here there's a batch posting for the transfer form, and there's an online here, right? The batch is here, online option is actually here, but both work the same way, except batch is punching, kept, and you are allowed to edit until you're satisfied, then you do a update. Now let's do another example of a damaged goods, for example, transfer. Let's say do a document transfer out, and we say that this is on this day there was a transfer. Now you can of course create another number if it's really a transfer, for example different numbers for damaged goods, you can do that as well. So you will say that, let's say you're transferring out, it's not going anywhere, there'll be no destination, then you will only need to specify from which destination, which product are you transferring out, and how many pieces. Let's say it's 1 piece. So you can then choose the reason as damaged goods transfer, confirm that, and do a post. So then you are transferring to nowhere and you are writing off stock, for example, for damaged goods. This is how you do make use of this no source or no destination option. Now the next option available is called a stock take. This is where you actually do a stock take for items adjustment. For example, you may do it 6 months or a year or monthly depending on your business. So there are two types of stock take posting here. One is random, one is sequential. Random meaning that you can pick which stock item you want, you key in your stock code yourself and you enter the quantity. Sequential is you allow the system to pick from item 1 right up to your last item sequentially. So there's two choices here, sequential or random. So let's say if you're doing a random stock take, for example. Now let's try it out. Now 0 stock take figure before posting, meaning if you want to start a new stock take, so first you need to zeroize all your stock take figures, meaning that for all items, as long as you have not entered any stock take figures, that means you have not been able to locate any quantity at all. So you want the system to set all those items that you did not enter to be totally 0. So you got to be very careful when you're using this option, because if you say 0 all stock take figures before posting, in other words, immediately when you start to do a posting, the system zeroize all stock take figures to 0. So any item that you did not key in, the system will assume that there's no stock, you will adjust off the difference. Now override previous stock take, meaning that whatever stock take I've done earlier, now I have new figures, just override them. That means the previous stock take figures that I've posted is not correct anymore. That's when you use the override option. So let's say we are doing random, for example, you allow you to have a date of stock take, what is your stock code, and then you can enter the quantity you have taken. Now on the top corner here, it shows the balance, current balance. If you find that, for example, your stock count shows 290 pieces left, then you enter 290 pieces and then you confirm, and the system will record the stock take figures. Now these stock take figures, although you have posted, is not updated immediately. So let's say if I'm doing another item, okay, and I found that this is 176, for example, confirm. Now these figures are stored there inside, so you can actually go to report, for example, and do a stock take report. Now you can print the stock variance report. If you have the cost password, enter the cost password. You have a lot of selections here. You can do a preview. For example, it will show you the difference between what you have stock take and the actual physical quantity according to the computer. So then you can see your stock variance. So this is where the stock take figures are not actually updated, but you can see a variance here. If you find that it's incorrect, you can still adjust it. Now after you have confirmed that it's correct, then under the stock take, you need to do a stock take update. So the figures that you keyed under stock take is not updated until you do a stock take update. Now import stock take figure is, for example, you use, let's say if you did a stock take at your branches, you have done your stock take, and you want to bring those figures back to your HQ to update. That's when you use import and export. So you will not use this option unless you are doing business that way. Okay, next option, production. Again, this option is not available unless your stock system is a composition stock system. So when you're doing production, for example, it means that if you are doing on a particular date with a, let's say, a reference, if you're doing an actual production, from which factory, how many of the master code have you produced? So this would be only master code. For example, if I've got sales package, right? In other words, I'm producing this sales package and actually packing the item to create the sales package. Or if you're a manufacturing concern, you have master codes of products. So how many of these products have you produced? in a factory, let's say if it's 100 sets or whatever, or it's 10 sets in this case, then the system will actually post and deduct the individual components if you are manufacturing concern, or if you are really packing up this, for example, sales package like a hamper, you will actually deduct the individual items and add to this master code quantity. So this is what production does. Now let's go to the next section, the inquiry section, where you can inquire on stock ledger. You can pick any particular item by barcode or stock code, enter the date you want to inquire, which location and which product. Now the system will show you the individual transaction. So this is an inquiry option. You can inquire on the ledger. You actually have a report called ledger, but you can do this on a screen as well. So this is an inquiry. Right? You can show your cost or your sales details for your month to date or year to date. You can have photo. If you have a photo attached, you can actually show a photo of the product as well. Now you also have an inquiry for balance analysis. Let's say you pick a particular department. You want to know, let's say one department, let's say clothing. So you extract all the products that falls under clothing, how many products that you actually have. Right? That's called balance analysis. You can have composition. For example, if you are doing production, again, this composition stock option is only available if you are using the composition stock, otherwise it will not show in your standard stock system. So you can actually say, if I want to produce a particular item or a package, for example, so you can quote, let's say I want this sales package and I want to produce, say, 50 sets. Your system will actually tell you which particular components that you wish to have, what are the things that you need, and so on. You can actually see from the screen the individual components that you require based on how many sets you have. So this is for the purpose. Year ledger inquiry, same as your individual one, by date, by product, and it will show you the ledger for the entire year, all the transactions. That is a year ledger inquiry. Now let's go to the report section. Now inside this section, there are a lot of options. First is a stock index report. Now for every report, you are able to select it either by stock code, stock name, or by department. In other words, based on your classification, list out the report according to classification. Of course, the best would be by department because it will show you clearly based on your classification item by item. You can choose which location because remember you have multi-locations. You can choose for one location, for example, or you can choose for all locations. You can have selection of department. For example, you want only specific items. Let's say you only want music items. You can actually do this, or you can do all. So the same thing goes for selection by product category and groups. You can have individual selection depending on whether you have created it that way, the classification, or you can have by range of stock codes. Now, most of the reports have these sort of selections. So you actually pick and choose different type of selections that you want. And you can have other options, like in this case, additional barcodes. Whether you have additional barcodes for individual items, you can preview. So let's say all reports you can actually preview on the screen, or you can print. Or some reports you can actually create a file, a kind of text file you can import into other tools. So let's look at preview. Now this is, for example, is an example of a stock index report. So the stock index report is actually basically a master list of all the items that you have inside your stock. And in this case, we are listing it by classification. In other words, we show department, product category, and group. So if you do not want, for example, by category, just by stock codes, when you preview the report, you can see it's different. It just gives you a location and followed by stock codes. Now next, report analysis table listing. This is basically a listing of the various options that you have. For example, departments, what do you have, and so on. Right, so this is quite simple report. Transactions report, enter the cost password. This is where you can list out all the transactions you can have under the stock system. So you can actually choose range of period to choose, maybe particular date. You can choose by, again, stock code, or by department. You can choose by transaction date or by locations and type of transactions. Maybe you want to see only sales transaction, maybe you want to see only purchase transactions, for example. And you can choose department if you want to. Preview. Then all the transactions are listed. Now transactions are actually postings that are confirmed. becoming part of the actual costing or forming part of your stock ledgers. So this is for you to list out all the transactions. Now next report, stock balance, enter cost if you want to see the cost value. Again, selection by months, by range of stock, by locations, by type of departments. For example, if you want to know only a specific department, how much stock you have left, you can again choose inside here, or all departments by range of stock code, and do a preview. This is your stock balance report. It shows you every individual item and how much balance of stock do you actually have based on their cost. It will also show you the new cost balance based on FIFO value. Now you can also list this by department, which will be easier to see. Let's look at that. You can see individual department, they'll tell you your stock balance by individual department product. Okay, and you can list this, for example, based on your last cost. Last cost meaning that your new cost, for example, what would be your value if it's based on last cost. So the system will actually show you the cost individual. There is a stock movement report. Enter cost, select again. Now let's look at the selections are basically about the same. Now let's look at the preview. You can see this one gives you a opening, receive, issue, and closing. So it's a reconciliation between opening stock quantity balance with the cost value, add with the total receipts for the month, total issue, and giving you your last closing figure for the individual item. So this is a stock movement report. If you list it by department, again you will segregate by department. So each department will have their own totals. Now slow moving stock item shows you items that are very slow moving. So you need to select, for example, what is the criteria when you mean by slow moving item. That means you can say for the last how many months are you looking at, with sales quantity less than or with balance quantity more than. You can choose this sort of criteria to print out your slow moving stock item. With stock aging, for example, more than 1 month or 2 months, for example, and then print your stock balance. So you have different criteria to choose how you want to classify slow moving items, and then you can do a preview. If there are any items that's matching this, you will actually show. That is a slow moving stock item report. Now reorder report, you remember earlier when we were doing the stock maintenance, we set in a minimum stock level. So this report says print for me all stock that has balances that fall below the minimum order level. So in this case, for example, you can see this is the minimum order level they have set in, and what is your actual balance quantity, and how much is the quantity that's short. So this will be the item that you need to reorder, or if you are doing manufacturing, these are the need of items that is in urgent need of manufacturing. So this is called a reorder report. Now we have the sales analysis report, which actually analyzes the sales of stock items. Again, you can choose by month and all the usual criteria, and you can also rank the order of sales. Now if you rank the order of sales, meaning like put the top sales right at the top. So your top sales meaning what? Is it month to date, meaning this month, or is it year to date? YTD is year to date. Okay, year to date. Then you can sort it by quantity, sales value, or based on profit. You can actually do that. So the system will rank all the top value on top first. So this is a ranking report. You can choose top 100, top 10. For example, if you've got 1,000 items, you just want to see the top 10 sales, you can actually choose the 10th. So this is a sales analysis report. It gives you the year to date and month to date sales figures as well as profit. If you have entered your cost value, then it's able to compute for you your cost that you made for every single item. Now we have the stock ledger. Stock ledger report is basically, remember earlier you were seeing a preview on the stock item. So you can actually choose one particular stock item, let's say. And you can see it's just a ledger that shows you all the transactions of each individual stock item. So this is very good if you want to check, for example, why certain stock balances are not correct, whether the postings are correct, because all the postings are shown in this ledger. All the in and out, the purchases and the sales are being shown into by individual stock item. Now I've shown you the stock variance report earlier, so let's look at stock tick form. If you're doing stock tick and you're doing it on paper, for example, you can actually print out a form like this. So the working area is for the person counting the stock to write and the final count, and then you take this to go back to do the stock tick posting. So this is called a stock tick form. We have price list, which is actually a printing of the price by different item, the individual selling price. If you have set two different price lists, which is wholesale and retail, you can see here the W is wholesale, the R is retail. It will show you the different prices. So this is called a price list. Now we have the composition table analysis report. Remember, this is only available in the composition stock system. It shows you the table of the various components. So in this case, the package is made of what? So all the bill of materials, your BOM tables or your composition table as we call them, will be listed in this report. Now we have a stock aging report. The stock aging report shows you an analysis of how long your stock has been kept in your office or your warehouse. So based on current 30 days, 60 days and so on. Now actually you can actually change the various classification. If you do not use a standard, for example, we have got like every 30 days, you can actually change yourself and say first category from how many days to how many days. So maybe you want from 1 to 3 months. So you can say from 0 to 90 days, 91 days to 120 days and so on. So you can actually specify the columns that you want using custom here. And the system will be able to show you under the columns that you custom yourself, how long has these items been in stock. So this is called the aging report. So from here you get a picture of which are the items that has been very long. So maybe you want to do some offers or you want to sell off at discount very quickly. So the aging report will help you to do that. Now composition stock issue report, again this is related to composition stock, only that version has this. Is for you to find out, for example, if you want to create one new master code, let's say for example this particular item, and then I want to have 100 sets of this. Now what this report does is to show you what are the components that you do not have, that you are short of. For example, if you want to create this, so it's able to show you which item, which are the requests that you have, and whether you are short or not. If you have some items that are short, so if you have enough stock, it will show you that you have enough stock. If you are short, it will show you the components. So let's do another report. Let's say we do a 200 sets and do a preview. You can see you will highlight the items that are short. So this is good when you're doing manufacturing, or if you're doing packaging, for example in retail trade, where you put together items for your hampers or your sales package. And you can print stock labels that looks like this. You print it on computer form as sticky labels. You can use it to stick it on your package, or you can print barcodes from the system. You can actually print barcodes using a laser printer, for example. But of course, if you're using high volume labels, then you should use a barcode printer. A barcode printer can be connected to this A stock system to print barcodes as well. Now you can reprint the purchase order forms, those documents that you have printed from the system. Right? You can reprint, for example, purchase order. You can reprint your stock transfer form, those transfer forms that you have been printed using the system. You can reprint all this inside the system. If you are running your stock transfer on batch, you can also print it on a batch. And you have year ledger. The year ledger is exactly like a ledger, except that it prints out for the whole year. For every single item, all the individual transactions for all the whole year will be listed out. So this makes it easier for you to check on any particular item. Now you also have an operation audit trail where we show who did what posting on what day based on the date, time, and the user's name. This is called an operation audit trail. Now let's go on to the next section, which is the other section. Under here we have data sorting. Data sorting is an option in case your data is not being aligned or correctly, and you find that some of the data might be not arranged correctly. You can actually do a sorting. This will rearrange back your data correctly. All you do is just do a click and the system will just do a sorting for you. Now you also have administrative tools. Under here there are many subsections. For example, system setup. Now this is where we configure the system. How do you want the system to run? Different type of setting, for example, whether we have color and sizes and so on. So this is configuration. So when we install a system for you, based on what you need, we would have already configured the system for you. So there are a lot of settings here that actually configure how the system runs for you. Now under here, you might be using internet, for example, to send out data or information to another branch. We will be doing a setting inside here. What is your email account? What is your login password and so on. Now you can set inside here, for example, new users, who are the people with the password and so on. And you can also do assignment of rights. Each user, for example, this person, which part of the system can he go through and do option. For example, if it doesn't allow this person to do stock maintenance, you click, it's dim. Once it's dim, it's not allowed. Okay, if you click it again, it's activated again. So this is dim, for example. So this is how you set up different users, different types of program, which part can they go to, which part they cannot go through, and you click on apply, and this is how you set access rights for different people to access different part of the program. Now there are many other utilities. For example, data housekeeping. When your data files are too big, you need to purge some of those older records. You can do data housekeeping. You can delete zero balance stock, some stock codes that you don't want, although they have transactions but their balances are zero and you want to delete them off. You can actually make use of this option to delete and check database size and so on. Now you can also export to tab delimited file, meaning that you can export file to a format which can be accepted by other tools like Excel, for example. So you may have stock master or stock transaction details. You can choose which are the range of stock that you want to export. You can specify the name of the file that you want to export, and you can also create a template, meaning like for each export you may only want to select certain items to export. For example, in stock master file you may want only the stock code and a description or the selling price. You can actually save a template of this export criteria, and the next time when you re-export again, you just use the same template. You don't have to key in or to select those things that you want to export again. Now you can lock the screen. If you're a user and you're leaving the terminal for a while, you can lock the screen so that nobody else touches. When you come back, you do a unlock. And you can change today's date. If the system date is not the correct date, you can actually change it here now. And the last button is the exit button. So now we have come to the end of our presentation on this A stock system. Thank you for watching.